All right, so this is chapter 6. This is about body composition and balance. Let's get to it. I'm going to share my screen. Let's pull up this PowerPoint and let's get to it. Okay, energy balance and body composition. What are we going to be doing and learning in this? There we go. So the learning objectives. We're going to explain how an excess of any of the energy yielding nutrients can contribute to body fat, and not enough of them can actually change your metabolism, slow your metabolism down. We're going to talk about energy balance and talk about the components of energy expenditure, factors that affect a person's BMR, factors that influence a person's energy expenditure, differences between body weight and body composition and how we assess them and what the health implications are, relationships between body weight and the risk for certain health problems, right? And guidelines for how to evaluate those risks from overweight to obesity to morbid obesity, and comparing the criteria for diagnosing and the characteristics of different treatments for these diseases and disorders. So with energy imbalance, the first one we'll talk about is feasting, right? Consumption of more energy than you expend. And that gets stored as fat. Thanksgiving is what comes to mind. So we eat, and we eat, and we eat, and we eat until we can't keep our eyes open. And you're not doing anything. And so that's all going to turn to fat. So fat can be made in your body from any energy yielding nutrient and also alcohol. Alcohol will make you fat. And fat cells will just keep on getting bigger and bigger as they fill up with fat. There's no limit to their size. They will just keep on growing. There's a picture here that shows fat cell enlargement. And when you overeat, that fat cell just starts to expand as much as you want it to. Just keep shoveling the food in, the fat cell will get bigger and bigger. Right? Your body will burn excess carbs for energy, which is a good thing, and it will displace the use of fat for energy. So in other words, you're eating mostly a carbohydrate-filled diet. That's what your body's using to feed your cells. And so the fat is just kind of sitting there. So you want to be able to have your body utilize some of the fat, and you don't want your body to be storing fat like that, right? So, and again, excess fat adds to body fat stores. And, you know, if there's ever a certain situation where you're stranded on a desert island, you might need it, right, to be stored for later use. But, you know, it's a problem if you're going to keep on eating. They're just going to be stored and the fat cells will keep on growing. Too much protein can actually convert into triglycerides. And that actually adds to your body weight, adds to obesity, and it can add to heart problems, cardiac problems, because of the plaque in the arteries with triglycerides. The next page is a chart, and it shows different food components, carbs, fats, proteins, and how they're broken down in the body and what they contribute to. So like carbohydrates, all carbs get broken down to glucose ultimately, right? And that contributes to liver and muscle stores of glycogen that's stored there if you need it later. Fatty acids, basically they're fatty acids and they just get stored as fat, right? Protein or amino acids, and if you have too much of them, you can use them for fuel. They can be converted to glucose also or fat, but they contribute, too much of them can contribute to your kidneys not absorbing or excreting things that shouldn't. So nitrogen will wind up getting lost or excreted through your urine. So it could hurt your kidneys. And then we have fasting, and that's a thing now. Lots of people are doing this fasting, like a 3-day fast or something, or intermittent fasting is a thing. Yes. Bad. Because your body thinks it's starving, right? You don't need a cleanse. Nobody needs a cleanse unless you're eating wood. I mean, or something really odd. You don't need a cleanse. You know, there's all this talk about, you know, intermittent fasting, and you do these, you know, colon cleansing. Mm. Color me cynical. Like, I mean, the bottom line is that small frequent meals for everybody is the healthiest way to eat, right? Because that speeds your metabolic rate up, right? Like I gave the example last week with starting a fire, right? You don't just put a big log, you have to feed it with like little, right? Same thing with your body. If your body doesn't get any food into it for a period of time, it's going to say, oh my gosh, are we starving? What's going on here? And it's going to try to hold on to what you have. So it's not a healthy way to live. Economics of fasting. So energy needs of your body are met by periodic refueling. Like I gave the example with the car. Car needs gas to go. Your body needs food to go, right? Eating several times a day. If food isn't available, your body will use its reserves. So what it has stored. So like the liver will store glycogen and convert it to glucagon so that it can go back into your bloodstream and you can use it. But understand, and I love how this is worded, there's no metabolic distinction between fasting and starving. So in other words, your body's going, what are you doing? Why won't you eat? Yes. Yeah, if you're doing it to lose weight, see there, and people do it for different reasons. Some people do these cleanses because somewhere along the line, they've been led to believe that, I don't know, their colon's dirty, or I don't know what the reason is, or to lose weight. That's another reason too. But if you lose weight from doing like a juice cleanse for 2 days, yes, you're going to gain the weight back, because what you're getting rid of is basically just fluid weight. You know what I mean? You don't benefit from starving your body in any way. There's no scenario in any anatomical or physiological component of your body where starving it is a good thing. There just isn't. I don't understand. It's the fads. People will always look to these fads, like the apple cider vinegar or the juice cleanses or the intermittent fasting and all those things. But none of them are based in, true science and health. Your body needs food. That's how your body functions, If you're starving, your body's going to start using up stored carbs and stored fat first. But then 2 days of that is when you start to break down muscle tissue for protein, because your body's like, we don't have any food. What are we going to do? So with fasting, the glucose, like I just said, from the liver stores that excess glycogen. The glycogen will get used up first, right? And your brain needs sugar. Your nervous system and your red blood cells, you got to have glucose. So there's got to be some carbs. Can't use fatty acids for that function. Your nervous system in total consumes about half of the total glucose that you use in a day. So give or take 400, 600 calories worth. Protein tissues like liver and muscles break down during fasting. They actually start to deteriorate and break down because the body's going, we need this, so let's get what we have inside and use it. For the first couple of days, the body protein can give you about 90% of what you need for glucose. If you go further than 2 days, it gets even worse, because the body's going to start to adapt to that lack of fuel. You're going to get foggy, right? Not clear thinking. It's almost like being sleep deprived. Like if you haven't slept in a couple of days, anybody that's had a baby knows maybe the first couple of nights, you're not sleeping. Or if you're a Navy SEAL and you're doing Hell Week, but that's how it feels. You just feel foggy because your brain just can't function without energy. There's a couple reasons why it's not great to eat right before bed. The number one reason is that you're going to sleep. And so the digestive process is a little bit different. So blood flow gets diverted to your digestive system when you eat, right? And you're usually up and moving around during the day. When you just lie down, it's basically a slower process, number one. Number two, gastroesophageal reflux. So when you're in a supine position, the food that you just ate, like you ate some snacks and you went to bed, you're more likely to suffer from GERD because the lower esophageal sphincter has pressure on it when you're supine. And so whatever hydrochloric acid's in there trying to break down the food that you just ate can work its way back up your esophagus and cause heartburn and some discomfort. So that's not 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours is the typical window. And the only exception to that is somebody who is a diabetic and on insulin. They should have, and it should be a light bedtime snack, like they shouldn't have a steak dinner, but they should have a bit of a protein with a complex carb. I always go back to the peanut butter crackers because it's a nice light little snack, you know, and it'll keep them from becoming hypoglycemic during the night. Let's put it this way. So if there are times where the schedule is out of whack, that's not the end of the world, right? And especially when you're young. When you're young, your body will compensate. It's amazing, you know. If you make a habit of it, then certainly it could be a problem. It could contribute to weight gain. People who tend to eat right before bed, you know, lots of snacks before bed, tend to gain weight, right? Because you're putting gas in the car and then you're sticking the car in the garage, right? As opposed to in the morning, you're putting gas in the car and then you're going and doing things and utilizing that energy, you know? So it's always best to try to avoid eating and then going right to bed, except Thanksgiving. That's the one exception. You can go lay down in the recliner and take a nap. It's okay. Fasting and all the bad things, slowing your metabolism down. That's the other thing. Remember how I said small, frequent meals speeds up your metabolic rate. So thin people tend to stay thin, right? If you fast, you're actually slowing your metabolic rate down because your body's like, oh my God, we're starving. And it's going to try to hang on to stuff. So everything's going to slow down inside. The metabolic rate, you'll feel like everybody else will say, oh, the temperature's fine in here, but you might be cold, right? Where everybody else, the temperature's okay. That's because your metabolism's a little slow. So, you know, lots of arguments for why fasting is not good. And the changes that your body makes, the way they have it worded here, adaptations to fasting can maintain life for a long period of time. So in other words, your body is compensatory. So it will try to save you. It's amazing. However, eventually it's going to catch up to you, right? It's going to catch up. Yes, babe.
Forget about it, and I just do like 2 things a day, 3 times a week, and then that's it.
Right. And so again, I'm going to go back to the age again. So don't think that I'm ageist, but it's just a fact, right? When you're young, when I was in my 30s and even 40s, which I consider young now, right? And I worked in the hospital. I worked 13-hour shifts, you know, 7P, 7A. I was all screwed up because I hate night shift, but I'd work night shift because I had children, you know, and it worked for me. Did I eat? Sometimes, you know, if I had the chance or if I was hungry, oftentimes I drank coffee and water all night, coffee, water, you know, not the healthiest of lifestyles, you know, and then I get home in the morning and get the kids on the bus to school and maybe sleep a couple hours. You're all screwed up, especially when you work night shift. I did that for 8 years, the night shift. But your body is amazing because it will compensate. Let's put it this way. At some point you want to get yourself into a more regular routine, but when you're doing school and work and stuff, it's hard. It's hard. I'll be the first one to admit it. Right. Exactly. Just try not to eat crap. That's probably the best advice that I can give. Try not to eat crap. Try to eat stuff that's reasonably good, you know?
That's my problem. Like, my mom's about to go away for like 3 months.
What are you going to do? He has no idea. So, you know, and people will resort to, like, you know, frozen meals and that kind of stuff, right? Which is not good. But there are ways around it. Like, for years, I would cook a lot on Sundays and I would freeze that food. So all I had to do was nuke it. So it was kind of like a frozen meal, but it was really a homemade meal. But I pre-prepared it, you know, do that kind of stuff. You're better off making yourself like a grilling or broiling a quick burger. That's what you know, a lot of times I'll make myself just a quick burger, some provolone cheese on it. I'll broil it in the broiler. Better to eat that than go eat McDonald's, right? Cheaper too, in the long run. You get a big thing of, you know, ground beef. And it's not horribly expensive to eat well either. Because, like, for example, frozen vegetables, right? I always buy frozen vegetables because, you know, usually it's either just me or just me and my husband. Not a lot of people in the house. The kids are gone, right? So I'm not going to buy fresh vegetables. I'll wind up throwing them away. It's a sin. Get them frozen, just plain frozen vegetables. You know what I mean? Broccoli, asparagus, whatever. And then I will steam them. And, you know, it's just enough for 1 or 2 people. And they're not expensive. You know, the Walmart brands are not bad. I hate going into Walmart. It gives me, but their prices are good. So I do the online shopping and I go pick it up and they just put it in my trunk and I drive away without murdering anybody. It's awesome. So there are ways to do it that are affordable too. Yes. The air fryers are awesome. They are awesome because they will make food crispy, crunchy as if you deep fried it, and there's no oil. And I use an air fryer also. It's awesome. Yes. Exactly. You can take a chicken breast and it will cook it, and it will cook it quickly. Number one, which you don't have to wait as long, and it'll cook it. It's delicious. And try to use seasonings, like play around with seasonings other than salt. You know, there's lots of seasonings out there that you can use to make things taste delicious, you know. All right, so with fasting, we talked about wasting of tissue. Your immune system suffers, your body temperature gets lower, so you'll find yourself always cold, and fluid and electrolyte imbalances. I'm going to kind of just cut to the chase here. Your food energy intake, if it equals your energy expenditure. So in other words, like a car with gasoline, again, go back to that. If I have to go 100 miles and I put 100 miles worth of gas into the car, you know what I mean? So you're taking in the energy that you need to expend. If you take in more, then that gets stored as fat. If not enough, then, you know, if you're trying to lose weight, that's one way to lose weight, but losing weight is a slow process. You don't lose weight in 1 week with our new pill. It doesn't work. It's not real, you know. Let's see. Energy provided by various foods. And then they talk here about the basal metabolic rate. And that when we say basal metabolism, the word basal is like slow and steady. That's a good way to remember basal. It's slow and steady. Your basal metabolic rate is the bare minimum of energy that your body needs to keep you alive, right? The amount of ATP that your cells, mitochondria have to make just to keep you here, breathing, upright, not doing anything, just alive. That's your base metabolic rate, okay? It slows down when you go to sleep, but, you know, basically during the day when you're awake, if you're conscious, right? That's your base metabolic rate. You change that if you're expending a lot of energy, like if you're running or, you know, doing things that require energy. It talks here about losing weight. What are the variables that affect how people lose weight? So muscle mass, body weight, activity, right? The longer, the more intense an activity is, it's cardiovascular benefit, right? But it also, you're going to expend more calories. If you expend more calories than you take in, you're going to lose weight. You're going to lose weight. It's just a slow process. And oftentimes people can't wait. It's like, I want to lose 10 pounds. Why can't I lose it now? Because it didn't take you now to gain it. it took a minute to get it, it's going to take a minute to get rid of it, you know. And this is a funny thing. Did you know that, and this doesn't say this here, but I'm adding this because they're talking about the thermal or the thermic effect of food. Drinking very cold water burns calories. Did anybody know that? Look, she's like, what? I got her attention. What? What? Not a lot. No, you're not gonna drop 20 pounds. But the point is, when the temperature of food affects how the food is metabolized in your body. So very cold things, very cold water, when you drink very cold water, you have to expend a little energy inside in order to get that water down to your body's temperature once it's in you. So yes, you're burning some calories. That it's so 10% of your total food energy that you take in is usually affected by the thermic effect of food. So in other words, if you look at everything you eat in a day, right, about 10% of that is affected and gives you a little extra boost of calorie use because of the temperature of the food or the drink that you're taking in. Ice cream, ice pops, cold water, right? Something where your body has to bring that temperature down. Your body has to work to do it, so you're spending a couple calories. Right? Make sense? Listen, brother, I'm with you because I love that creme brulee ice cream. That's delicious. So I can't tell you exactly how many calories. I don't even know if there's a formula to figure that out. But the bottom line is like, even for example, spicy hot food. Who likes hot sauce? Right. So when I had dinner at my son's on Saturday night, he gave me this hot sauce. Oh my God. Got it in Virginia. I forget what it's called, but you'll pay tomorrow. It's that kind of hot sauce, right? You know what I'm talking about? Super spicy also expends calories. The sweating is the byproduct of the fact that you're burning calories because your body's like, why is this so hot? We got to do something to get this back. Everything needs to be in the middle, homeostasis. So if it's too cold, too hot, your body's got to get it to the middle, right? And so you're going to burn a few calories. Don't get excited. Like a bowl of ice cream, you're not dropping 10 pounds. And the factors that influence energy expenditure, of course, you know, gender really does, because the fact is, whether we want to hear it or not, men and women are shaped differently. Men have more muscle mass than women, typically, right? There's always an exception to every rule, you know, but for the most part, men have more muscle mass than women. Your age, of course, is a factor, right, in energy expenditure. How much you typically, how active you are generally. If all you do is sit, like my neighbor, just sad story, breast cancer, bilateral, had a bilateral mastectomy, you know, a few years older than me. I think she's like 63, but she just never moves. She's sedentary. Like she is the word sedentary, you find her picture, you know what I mean? And she went out to shovel snow. And I was like, no, don't do it. That's how people have heart attacks, because they don't do anything physical. And then they decide, oh, I'll go out and shovel the sidewalk. No, don't do that, because your body's not used to it, you know? So physical activity that you typically exert, whatever your norm is, that has an influence. And your body composition and your body size. People, male and female, are built differently. You know, some people say, oh, I'm big boned, right? There really are differences in people's body types, right? And your body type also plays a part in health as well. For women, pear-shaped, right? That kind of thing, apple-shaped, those things have a bearing on health. So there are lots of variables that define our state of health, right? There's not one size fits all. This is the recipe for health for every. In general, it's just to eat well, get a reasonable amount of exercise, and, you know, get a reasonable amount of sleep also, because your body needs that. And, you know, eat the best that you can. Small, frequent meals, those are the general guidelines. Then they can be tweaked to fit, you know, individuals. Let's see. And when we talk about weight, you know, here they're defining healthy body weight. Value yourself and others for human attributes rather than body weight. Absolutely. I mean, it's not about shaming anybody. It's about health, right? Use positive, non-judgmental descriptors of your body. Accept positive comments. That's another thing too. People, oh, you look good today. Just say thank you. It's okay. It's cool to get a compliment. Just say thanks, thank you. You know, sometimes people have a hard time taking compliments. And accept that there's no magic diet, there's no magic pill, there's no Jack, there's no beanstalk. Sorry. Bless you. She sneezed on the truth. Become physically active, at least a little. Move. You got to move. You got to break a sweat a few times a week. But you can't have done nothing and then go, all right, well, now I'm going to run a mile. Like, you know, you have to work yourself up to that. If you've been sedentary, little baby steps to get where you need to be, right? Let's see. Then we talk about BMI. You do need to know this. Body mass index. What is that? It is, there's a formula that you use to take the person's weight, kilograms, and the person's height in meters squared. And that gives you the body mass index. There are also charts. Like I don't need you to know the formula, but what I do need you to know is when we talk about a healthy BMI versus overweight versus malnourished, right? So here they're saying that healthy is 18.5 to 24.9. Most sources will tell you that, you know, once you get to 18 or less, it's malnourished. Once you get to, there's a little more latitude on the other end. Like once you get to about 22, you're starting to be overweight, right? So for example, going back to the hospice example, BMI, if you're at a 17 or lower, you're eligible, right? Because that means that you have very little body mass, right? For your height, your weight is probably, you're underweight, right? And then for morbid obesity, to be morbidly obese versus obese. The word morbid means it could kill you, right? Morbid obesity, you're 20% or greater above the recommended weight for your height, or a BMI, usually 28 to 30. Yes. It's not about fat, really. People think that. People think it's about like how much body fat do I have? All body mass index is just a number that gives you, takes your height and how much do you weigh, right? You're dividing the weight by the height, and that kind of gives you that number. So, and there's, like I said, the general numbers are pretty standard. So, but if you could have a skinny fat person and a fat skinny person, those things exist. I know that's a tongue twister at this time of night. Yeah, but in other words, you can have somebody who looks thin, but they're not in shape. They're not healthy. They have the insides of a heavy person, and vice versa. Although the person that's the heavy person, you know, the skinny heavy person, the heavy person can't be too heavy, because at some point, then when you're carrying around too much excess body fat, cardiomegaly, your heart gets enlarged, your ankles start to hurt, your knees start to hurt, your hips start to hurt, your back starts to hurt. So there are consequences for that. What are you going to ask him?
You know, like the BMI, I heard that BMI is like a great solution.
Yes. People never guess my weight. When I ask people to guess my weight, I'm 5'6", and people always say, oh, you weigh like, you know, 110, 120. No, I don't. Dad. 145. There you go. But I have a lot of muscle, you know. And so body mass index is not the definitive at all for, you know, determining that. But when you get a BMI that's a 30, I don't care what your body type is, or you at the other end, you get a BMI that's like 17. I don't care what your body type is. That's you're thin, you're skinny, too skinny, malnourished, right? So it kind of gives you a little bit of information, but it's not the definitive for all of it, right? But we do use BMIs in the healthcare field a lot, you know. And even when we talk about, you know, the prediction of mortality, life expectancy for the first time has gone down. right? Which is crazy. And a lot of that has to do with sedentary lifestyle, obesity, type 2 diabetes, you know, being either underweight or overweight. In this country, it's usually the overweight that's the problem. It presents the risk of premature death, right? Not living to a ripe old age. And then remember I talked about body types, body shapes, like the pear shape, the apple shape. People that have a thick middle, right, the round like that, they are more at risk for cancer, diabetes. That is a thing, believe it or not. There is some science behind it. Again, is it a guarantee? No, no. We're talking just about risk factors. But in general, being overweight is a risk factor for diabetes. So, you know what I mean? The bottom line is you try to be as healthy as you can. Yes, Kim, did you have? Oh, no, okay. And we can look at things like your waist circumference, right? How big your waist is, and skin fold measures if you do have skin folds. And if you have skin folds, you're probably carrying a little extra weight anyway, just by virtue of that, right? How much fat is too much? So they're saying, 13 to 21% body fat for men, 23 to 31% body fat for women. There's still a lot of latitude in that too, because it depends on the person. Everybody is different. So athletic versus non-athletic, you know what I mean? Those are just kind of like a ballpark guideline. And athletes, even when you look at heart rates, just to give you an example, Michael Phelps, right? The swimmer, his resting heart rate is like 42. If we had a resting heart rate of 42, we'd be on the floor. But he is in such incredible shape that he can have a resting heart rate of 42. Normal heart rate 60 to 100 beats a minute, just to give you perspective. And calories, when he was training for the Olympics, something like 20,000 calories a day, we would all be like the Goodyear blimp. I mean, that's I can't even picture 20,000 calories. Right. But I mean, he was just expending so much energy. He needed that to just do what he was doing, So it's really crazy. Did you have a question? No. Okay. And then on the other hand, underweight. There are risks that go along with being underweight too, right? That's just as unhealthy. If you get sick and you're already underweight, you could be in trouble, right? Because your body doesn't have any reserves. I used to tell my patients with cancer, if they were getting ready to go get chemo, radiation, I would tell them, eat now, eat anything, eat everything you want, just eat. You want 3 bowls of ice cream, eat 3 bowls of ice cream, because once the chemo starts, you're going to lose weight. You're going to, right? So, there are cases like that where if you go into those kinds of things already underweight, you're kind of already at a disadvantage, can cause infertility in women too, being underweight. So anorexia nervosa or bulimia nervosa, both of which are eating disorders that can cause malnourishment in people, typically females. It can happen in males, but it's statistically more females than males. And osteoporosis for postmenopausal women like me. If you don't have muscle mass, you are prone to osteoporosis, and you could just sit down and break a bone. So no thanks. I don't want that. Overweight and obese, hypertension, right? Increased blood pressure is hypertension. I don't know why it's written like this in the PowerPoint. So that's just redundant. Hypertension is increased blood pressure. High blood lipids, in other words, hypercholesterolemia, hypertriglycerides, fatty liver disease, certain cancers, sleep apnea. A lot of times people have sleep apnea because they're overweight and it's pushing on the diaphragm when they're supine, when they're sleeping. And that's why, right? I did that well, didn't I? Complications in pregnancy. Sometimes people will have to, lose weight before they can even become pregnant if they're really overweight. And there's so many more. It's hard to even name all of the problems that can arise. We talk a little bit about eating disorders. Anorexia is basically, there's this, it's a mental illness, needs to be treated. But no matter how thin the person gets, they perceive themselves as fat. So what they see in the mirror is not an accurate representation of what they really look like. Go back to that Karen Carpenter that I talked about earlier. I mean, it was frightening. She was a skeleton, you know. And other things happen too when you get to that weight, that malnourished state. Your body will grow this fine hair all over it, like little babies have when they're born. It's called lanugo, to try to keep your body warm because you've lost all your fat. Right? So many things happen. Your body's saying, I'm trying to save you, stop. You know, bulimia nervosa is they will eat, but they will purge. So they will eat a full meal and then, excuse me, I'll be right back. Go into the bathroom and finger down the throat. That's a bad one too, because not only do you have the issue of malnourishment, but now every time you vomit, you make yourself throw up, all the hydrochloric acid in your stomach is now climbing. It rots your teeth. It wears away at the smooth mucosal lining of the esophagus, causes esophageal varices, which can bleed. There's just a list that goes on of things that can happen. Binge eating. Sometimes people will cycle through, you know, I'm on a diet. Oh, I screw that diet. I'm going to eat everything in sight. Oh, I got to get on a diet again. Back. And that's really unhealthy. Your body's going, what are you doing? No, because you can't make yourself go to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you're taking excessive amounts of laxatives, that would be the same. Not the same, but very close to, right? Try, because, you know, I know sometimes people will use laxatives. Like, I got to get rid of 5 pounds, take a lot of milk and magnesium. Please don't. And some nurses, I knew a nurse that would do that years ago. Or diuretics, water pills to get rid of fluid. It's so dangerous, dangerous. You can't do that, you know? And then, you know, they talk a little about the socio-cultural things, you know, the chicks in the magazines, you know, those chicks aren't real. Just to keep it real, okay? They're photoshopped, a lot of them. And nobody's perfect. There's no body in the world whose body is perfect, right? So you have to like let that go. You have to believe, you have to look in the mirror and believe that you're beautiful. And you have to believe it, right? Let's see. And this goes into great detail about the eating disorders, but I think that we are going to be done. Yeah, we are done. I'm going to stop sharing and let's turn this off.